Northeast.
Hello everyone, how you doing? Is alright. Welcome to the Black and White Show. If you're watching across our socials and over on YouTube, we've had to do a little bit day earlier because of the availability of everybody. But if you're listening on Nova Radio 102.5 FM on Sunday, it's the usual time. So thank you very much for your company as my cat decides to move the webcam. Nice one, cat. Thanks for that. Coming up in today's show, I will change that webcam, don't worry. Coming up in today's show, we are going to be hearing from Kyle, Sam and Jonny. We're talking all things Takeover, and we've also got the WhatsApp number 0747 649 7166. We want your interaction. Please fire over your WhatsApp. That's the guaranteed way where we will read your messages out. We've got 2 or 3 which have already come through, which we'll come back to in a moment. But what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about where we currently stand in terms of the takeover and what it means. So we're going to bring Jonny into the conversation, and then later on we'll have a discussion around the takeover in general, and of course we'll bring Kyle in, Sam in as well, and we'll also hear from DeAndre Yedlin, who is the only player so far to publicly talk about the takeover. But I will fix the webcam, but in the meantime, let's talk about the takeover.
The Black and White Football Show, Sundays 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
Yes, a lot of confusion around the takeover, who has a part, who's going to have the decisions and so on. More on that with Jonny. As you can see, Jonny has joined me. But first, what we want to do is take you back to the development story on Tuesday, and Jonny will update you after this.
We've seen this all before. But let's hear what Pete Graves has to say. He's one of the most respected journalists covering Newcastle United. He's given a big mention on his Instagram page about the latest that's going on with Newcastle United. Pete, take it away.
Righty-ho, quick update for Newcastle United fans. Some of you have been asking me. If you look at Sky Sports News right now, the yellow breaking news is about your football club, and sources really close to the deal have confirmed that it's as close as it's ever been. The sale of the football club from Mike Ashley to PCP Capital Partners, which is Amanda Staveley's consortium. Just to say, the documents doing the rounds on Twitter and elsewhere, which you guys have found, they are genuine legal documents, and we will have more updates on Sky Sports News later on through the day, and I'll try and put some on myself. But yeah, patience, as I've said since January, is the key. These are strange times in the world, and this just makes the week even stranger. I hope you're all keeping safe. We will keep you up to date, and yeah, this is close. Definitely close, certainly closer than it's ever been. And Mike Ashley looking ever increasingly likely to sell Newcastle United Football Club to Amanda Staveley's consortium. We'll keep you up to date.
Some really exciting news that could potentially happen for Newcastle United. Let's go into little by little what everything means in the last 12 hours. So, we saw this morning that legal documents had been rumoured on Twitter, certain things that have been going on between the PCP Capital Partners Group, which Amanda Staveley owns, and St James's Holdings, which obviously Mike Ashley owns. And it basically shows that Mike Ashley will transfer shares from St James's Holdings, Newcastle United, to PCP Capital Partners, which is Amanda Staveley. Now, obviously, since then, there's been rumours of what this deal is going to be. So, Amanda Staveley, rumoured, as it's just reported, that has paid £13 million as a deposit fee. Now, this kind of grants her exclusivity in terms of the whole deal. So it means that she's basically in prime position to take over at Newcastle United. From this 13 million, it'll be £200 million up front. This is what the Daily Mail are reporting. And that deal roughly is around about 350 million. You're probably thinking, where's the other 150 million pounds coming from? Well, bizarrely, some people would say, Mike Ashley is giving Amanda Staveley the £150 million as more like a loan to accelerate the deal. It's not massively strange for this to happen. Sunderland, just down the road, LF Short and Stuart Donald did a deal very, very similar to kind of speed the process up for Stuart Donald to take over. So it is quite similar, but obviously it's a lot more money being involved in this deal. Now, you're probably thinking, why? Why would Mike Ashley agree to doing this, and why would Amanda Staveley agree to it as well? So there's a couple of things. The main thing is Amanda Staveley doesn't have that sort of money. She's got 200 million it's a little bit less, well actually more than a little bit, a lot less than what Mike Ashley wants in total. Now, Mike Ashley will have 5 years worth of instalments from that 150 million. You would think maybe £30 million a year. It might be bigger, little, it doesn't really matter. He will get that 150 million. And from that 150 million loan, he will have the security of the PCP Capital Partners assets, which basically means if something was to go wrong, he would still get his money from the company because he would have a sort of a security and a control of that company. So it's a lot to go through straight away. Another reason why Mike Ashley and Amanda Staveley would do this, because it would speed up the fit and proper persons test up as well. It normally would take, obviously coronavirus not happening, around about 4 weeks, because Mike Ashley is putting in his own money and has been an owner. Essentially, that would speed up the process. How quickly will that speed up the process? Again, remains to be seen. Now, you're probably thinking, well, where do the Reuben brothers come into this? Where do the Public Investment Fund come into this? Very good question. So, in terms of the Reuben brothers, they've lent money to Amanda Staveley to help this process up. Amanda Staveley has also become a director of a company which is called JV1 Limited. The JV meaning a joint venture. So, for business terms, you're basically working together to obviously complete the process of a deal, which obviously goes back to the £13 million that Amanda Staveley has been put as a deposit for Newcastle United. You would think if you're putting that amount of money up as a deposit, a deal is either closed or a deal is confident of being done. Again, I'm no legal expert and no business expert. I'm just kind of looking at all the information that has been provided by obviously people that know a little bit more than what everybody else does, which it leaves you to have your own opinion of it, which is what we're all about. Now, the Public Investment Fund, this is quite fascinating. So, Amanda Staveley does all the dog work essentially by doing all the paperwork, getting a deal done with Mike Ashley, and obviously Amanda Staveley will be the holder of Newcastle United. She will own the club. The Public Investment Fund are looking to buy shares off PCP Capital Partners, which basically takes Mike Ashley out of the equation. You know, it's two separate companies. Ashley still has that £150 million, but he won't have day-to-day control of the football club, which he has at the minute because he does own the club. When that's taken off him, he has no involvement, he has no say. So it is very, very interesting how everything is coming about. Now, the biggest issue is, for me, is that this is the closest the deal has ever come to. It is really, really close now. We've seen Keith Downey talk, we've seen Pete Graves talk about how close it potentially can be. It's not done. They're both stressing it's not done, but it is the closest that Newcastle United have been to a potential takeover. And if it was to fall now, by God, I think everyone would give up on a potential takeover of Newcastle United. Really will be very, very downbeat, because again, this is something that 99% of Newcastle fans want. They want Mike Ashley to leave the club, so Newcastle can become a bit more ambitious and have more of a positive future with Newcastle United. So it is very, very exciting times, but like most people are saying, this is kind of my phrase at the minute, put the cans on ice. It is very, very fascinating. Amanda Staveley will have her own ideas. What does that mean for Steve Bruce? What does that mean to the players for Newcastle United? Again, is another massive question, but we can only probably go into more depth in these questions when the deal is done. And I think the rumour is 80% that the Public Investment Fund would want, which PCP could sell to them, which obviously you put your 80% for PCP, 10% for the Reuben brothers, and 10% for Amanda Staveley. So it is very exciting, but again, I think there'll still be some Newcastle fans, and rightly so, will be going, let's wait until one of them, mainly Amanda Staveley, who will probably be the one that will run the day-to-day operations of Newcastle United inside St James's or with a Newcastle scarf and saying that the deal is done. But we want to get your thoughts on it, get your opinions on everything that's going on in terms of Newcastle United and this supposed takeover. Do you believe it? That's the brutal question. Do you believe that this can happen? And have we seen the last of Mike Ashley at Newcastle United throughout his whole tenure? It's massive, massive news. But yeah, like and subscribe. Get your comments in. We'll try and reply as many as possible. And keep an eye on all our socials if you want all the breaking news in regard to a potential takeover as well with Newcastle United.
Right, so that was Tuesday, Jonny. So thank you very much for the update. That video's done really, really well. What's changed so far? Has anything changed in the last 48 or 72 hours?
I think this is a story that's always changing. Look, since Tuesday night till we're recording this Thursday afternoon, it's been mental. It has been absolutely mental. Some of the stuff that I summarised from reports on Tuesday, some of it was guesswork by the look of it, because the big thing is that it's £300 million cash, roughly. Most experts, as I'm going to say, as they are reporters, journalists, whatever, indicating that it's £300 million cash, and that is pretty much it. There's £150 million that was muted about it's part of an ongoing court case between Barclays and PCP, which obviously Amanda Staveley runs, and basically the money that they were hoping to win from this case was going to come into that. It's got no relevance to it now, really, to be honest. So it's £300 million in cash. It's became, I think, a very quick deal. I think what's probably happened is from this coronavirus case of obviously, which again people are suffering from, and this is just something that cannot be helped. Mike Ashley's gone, let's just take the money and run. I think that's what it's come down to. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is that they wanted to get a deal done and a deal done quick. And obviously, when you look at those documents, who they've been signed by, it got people thinking in the legal documents, Lee, and that is the brutality of it, is that it's basically what most people are saying is that when you're trying to buy a house, the buyer and the seller have kind of basically agreed on how it's all going to work out and basically how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, you're right. I know we're going to have a discussion when we bring Kyle in on the next one about what it means and stuff. But so far, then, it's gone a bit quiet. We understand that it's now over at the Premier League. There's speculation it could be 2 weeks to a month. We've seen Jamie Redknapp, of course, mention that he's spoken to the Reuben brothers. I just want to clarify a lot of things over on the YouTube comments from your video the other day, but also across social media, where there seemed to be a little bit of confusion for who has a say and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play dumb, not the first time. And then I'm going to fire out a few questions at you, Jonny, because a lot of people don't really know. So you mentioned the 150 million. Where's this confusion came from?
It's come from the documents, obviously the legal documents. Everyone was kind of going, well, what's this £150 million about? Again, all I can say to that is that because people didn't know how this sum was coming up together, this £300 million, people were kind of putting two and two together to make 25. And it hasn't really got a massive relevance in this at all. But Amanda Staveley and PCP have agreed a deal of £300 million, roughly. I'm going to say roughly. But everyone kind of looked at that document and gone, well, is Mike Ashley lending Amanda Staveley the money so it can be accelerated and pass the fit and proper persons test, etc., etc. But from what people are saying is that, well, you don't have to really worry about that.
Well, why? There's a lot of questions going around. And why don't Mohammed bin Salman, and his public investment fund group just buy the club outright? What's stopping them just going straight in with 300 million?
It's a very good question, but I think what they probably looked at and gone, well, Amanda Staveley wants this. If she's going to be the day-to-day operator of Newcastle United, she's going to be not in charge financially, but she's going to be the woman that everybody looks at. What everybody looks at Mike Ashley is, really, if we're being brutally honest. She wants to control the day-to-day operations of that football club. She has the vision. She has the idea of how she wants to run Newcastle United. Essentially, they've probably gone to her, well, what's the quickest and best way of us doing this, of completing this deal? And Amanda Staveley's gone, I'll do all the dog work, essentially. I'll do the paperwork. I'll get this through the fit and proper persons test. And then we can do a deal where you buy 80% of the shares of the club. And it will basically mean 80% will be of His Highness, I'm going to have to call him now, Prince Mohammed. 10% will be the Reuben brothers, which you've mentioned. Yeah, exactly. 10% will be the Reuben brothers, which you've mentioned already. and 10% will be Amanda Staveley that'll own part of the club. So in that sense of it, it's not really a complicated deal or a complicated outcome, but it's basically Amanda Staveley wants to try and get the nuts and bolts of it done, and she feels like if she can do it, she'll get it done quicker, maybe.
Yeah, because she's everywhere at the minute. It's all Amanda Staveley. I think a lot of people are getting confused with why she's doing it all, but we understand that, of course, she's going to take that 10% cut and have some involvement with the club. She's been after Newcastle a long, long time, and credit to her because she does not give up. And this is what, a third attempt we seem to be. She's adamant that she wants a Premier League club, didn't she?
Yeah, but I've had this discussion with other members of the group, other members like on our YouTube and just our socials and all. They were kind of running out of clubs, or people that would consider medium to big clubs that they could go for. Look, Arsenal, Kroenke, he's not going to let that club go. It makes too much money. The Glazers would charge £4 billion roughly, which is a case of being maybe, I don't know, 10 Newcastles, 11 Newcastles. That's mental in itself. But again, that makes so much money that the Glazers will want top dollar. Liverpool are not going to get taken over at the minute because they're making too much money. Spurs have just bought a new stadium. There's loads of debt. Are they going to take the debt on?
Everton,
Everton has been off. Aston Villa, to an extent, have just been taken over very rich owners in the last 12 months. Newcastle were one of the only few clubs they could go, do you know what? It's out the way to an extent. It's not really close to the Manchester clubs. It's far away from London. We can
and we love the fact. We love the fact we are miles away.
Of course we do. And exactly. And that is what we want it to be. Our bubble, can we make it our empire, if you like? But it's exciting times if, and it's a big if it all comes through.
So what's Amanda Staveley going to be? Is she going to be involved day to day, effectively having a Lee Charney, because Lee Charney makes all the decisions at the club? Is that basically what she's going to be?
I would imagine so. She'll be running the day-to-day operations of the club. Yes, she's going to have people that can help her along the way. She's going to have other, obviously, directors, I would imagine, or associates, but she's going to be the one that will have a big say on the day-to-day running of the football club. And look, let's be brutally honest. Yes, the Reuben brothers have got a lot of money. Yes, Mohammed bin Salman has a lot of money. A lot of money. But they don't want to go, I don't want to have all my eggs in the Newcastle basket and I want to run the day-to-day stuff. It's not. They're basically like silent investors, really. They're going to have their say. Of course they're going to have their say because they're putting a lot of money into this club. Obviously more the Saudis than the Reuben brothers. But, Amanda Staveley wants this baby. She wants to kind of make it her own almost with Newcastle. And she has some very big ideas. But obviously there's going to be some rumours that aren't going to go away. But it's exciting times, as we've mentioned.
It is. I think we'll be singing a few Mandys in the stadium. You mentioned the brothers, of course. They're known in the horse industry, as far as I'm aware. Don't they own, is it Gosforth racehorses, or one of them? It might be Sedgefield. It might be both. So why are them involved? Because they're only going to have a 10% cut. What's their role in this?
An investor, to be brutally honest with you, Lee. They love football by the look of it. Jamie Redknapp's spoken on Sky's The Football Show this morning, and he's on Thursday morning, and he's basically said that they love football and they've always wanted to be involved. It was just trying to find the right sort of ambition and the right sort of job or role or whatever they wanted it to be. I think they wanted somebody like an Amanda Staveley to do majority of the work. And yes, they're worth a lot of money. I think only Manchester City's owners are more wealthy than the Reuben brothers. So if it was just the Reuben brothers that took over the football club, Newcastle would probably be the second richest club in the Premier League. So again, it's another financial muscle. But when you look at the Reuben brothers, they're nowhere near wealthy as the Saudis. The Saudis roughly £250 billion or £260 billion roughly. So that shows their wealth as well. So it's very much so that these guys are very interested and they're no mugs. They're here to do business and they're here to make their businesses, which I know Newcastle fans will not like me here saying this like as in terms of a business, but they want their business to be successful. we want our football club to be successful. It's the same thing.
Who you mentioned, obviously, Amanda Staveley may be making the decisions. Is it really just down to her, or will it be the Public Investment Fund?
Look, the Saudis are going to have a massive say. 80% of the club, they're the big player out of all three of them. Amanda Staveley will give her advice. The Room Brothers will give their advice. However,
money talks.
Money talks. Look, it doesn't matter where you get the money from. If it's in England, Japan, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, it's money, and money will talk. And especially at these times, the Premier League will look at it and go, we've never seen this sort of money. Like, we've seen money, but we've never saw this amount of money. And it will be a game changer if this comes off, because, you know, I don't know if Newcastle will be the richest club in the world. I don't know, but they're going to be up there.
No, I would have to agree on that. If it does happen, is Steve Bruce, is his position under threat?
At the minute, no, because nothing's happened. But if this was to happen, I think the similar case could be if you look at Manchester City 10 years ago. Mark Hughes was already in charge when Sheikh Mansour took over as the owner of Manchester City. And he basically gave Mark Hughes pretty much 18 months. And Mark Hughes was borderline fourth, borderline fifth by just before Christmas of 2009 in the 9-10 season. And Manchester City brought in Mancini to come in and basically, can you get us in the top four? He didn't actually get Manchester City into the top four, but what he did do is he won the FA Cup and finished in the Champions League the next season. And then Manchester City famously won the league in 2012. So Steve Bruce will look at that and go, how long have I got until maybe they might go, I want my own man. And the problem is the Rafa Benitez story will not go away. It seems that Amanda Staveley has kind of almost gone, this is my man. He's going to get us to where we want to be. Is Steve Bruce part of that plan? At the minute, you don't know. It's just guesswork. But if this takeover was to come off, you'd have to worry for Steve Bruce.
Yeah, you would. I think it's a borrowed time if that does happen. The last one, we've seen daft comments about Mbappe and Harry Kane and you name it. Let's get real for a little bit moment. We can't just go and splash the cash, can we?
No, financial fair play didn't exist when Manchester City. It probably did exist, but it was in its infantry when Manchester City first came on the scene in 2008. Look, Newcastle will have restrictions on what they can and can't do. I think financially, behind the scenes, they'll be able to do a lot more than there will be in the playing staff. We know, me and you, Lee, for ages, and everybody that watches Newcastle Fans TV, we've been harping on about a new training ground, harping on about making the academy a lot better. You'd like to think that'd be one of the biggest things I'd look at. The stadium, not talking about expansions, but just generally the stadium could do with a makeover. They've done little bits and bobs in the last 12 months, but it could do with a bit of a tidy up, a bit of TLC. But again, they might have their own ideas, whoever has that ultimate decision. But you'd have to think that on the pitch, Newcastle will bring in more high-quality players. Will it be Mbappe, Neymar? No. I don't think it will be, but what it will be, it'll be better than what we've got at the minute, likes of Christian Atsu, no disrespect, Nabil Bentaleb, no disrespect, and Joe Linton, no disrespect. But that's how you've got to look at it. Maybe look at Manchester City when they first came in. Yes, they brought in Robinho. He was the big signing. But they brought in players like Shay Given, former Newcastle goalkeeper. Exactly. They had players there who were half decent. It was just kind of, let's just get a few big boys into this squad. But by the end of 2010, probably for Manchester City, they had the likes of Adebayor, Tevez, Gareth Barry, who cost a lot of money, Julian Lescott, Roque Santa Cruz. The list goes on. So don't expect £100 million bids for left, right, and centre. But let's just hope that they're smart and strategic about the sort of players they want to bring in.
I think you're all right. I think someone like a Danny Rose calibre type of player who's an England international, you could go and get, for example. So I would agree on that. What we're going to do is going to head back to myself live. I'm going to interact with you in the WhatsApp and the live chat to see what is the same. Remember, keep firing your WhatsApp over. In the next discussion, we're going to bring Kyle in and we're going to have a talk about what does it mean for Fun at 8, Puma, the stadium, Bruce transfers. We're going to just have a discussion of, can we get a little bit excited? Is it time for cans or cans on ice?
The Black and White Football Show, Sundays 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
And we are back live Right, so that was me and Jonny a little bit earlier on, speaking yesterday. We've got Kyle coming in a moment where we're going to talk about discussion if the takeover does happen. I think we're all in agreement. Places like the training ground, sponsors and so on, commercial side of things as well. We've had a lot of WhatsApp come through, so fantastic. We've had 7, so we'll try and rattle through these. We'll have a look at what you're saying also in the live chat as well. So we had one early on this afternoon. It was, considering financial fair play, what 5 signings would you like to see? Oh, that's a toughie. I think I can't really throw names out there, right? Well, please tell me in the live chat. Give us 5 names that you would like to see to join the club. Realistically, names. Don't go throwing Mbappe a name on, stuff like that. That's not going to happen. I think for me, I think a striker. I think everyone said that. Another creative midfielder. And I think a couple of the wing-backs situation, full-backs probably need improved on if we're not going to sign Williams or Rose, and on that right-hand side as well. So, difficult to throw names out there because we don't know what kind of money that we can play with because of financial fair play, because we've got to show money within, 3 years. But, of course, keep the WhatsApp numbers coming through. We've got Liam from London. He says, if and when we get taken over, what would you do, Steve Bruce? I think he should finish the job and then sack him. Finish the season and sack him and replace him with a Pochettino or an Allegri. Yeah, we're going to talk about the manager odds a little bit later, but it is going to be harsh if we do sack Steve Bruce. And I'm not going to defend Steve Bruce. I just think if you need to go to that next level, Steve Bruce is not that man. For me, I probably have it is maybe stay out the season and that's it. That's sorry, but I'm not sorry. If this takeover does happen, you want us to progress. William from Belfast was a regular comments on there, so thank you very much, William, for your WhatsApp. He says, praying the takeover is going to happen this time and the Toon fans can get the dream and get that man out of the club. I think everybody can echo that. Every single person who's watching right now, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter or YouTube or even listening on the radio, definitely everyone will echo that 100%. We've had no name on this one. Please leave your names when you do WhatsApp ups. He said, despite the great news for the club, this takeover must mean that the new owners should rebuild the club from the ground up, and if it takes 10 years, then so be it. Yeah, I think everyone is. It's a good comment. I think that's a sensible comment because it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to have Newcastle turn into Man City. Look how long it took Manchester City. It took them 3 years. Is that a realistic target for Newcastle? 3 years with Champions League football? Maybe it's 2 years? I don't know. Possibly. Another one, this is from Mark. This is a long one. Right. He says, hi, I would love to talk to you about the bashing of Newcastle fans from certain pundits and journalists. That's been the case for a few years. They all think that we want someone to throw money at the club when it's not the case. We just want a club with a bit more ambition and an owner who doesn't strip the club of its assets. It's unbelievable how mainstream media hasn't challenged Mike Ashley on the running of this club, taking season ticket money during this pandemic and the furlough of staff. Keep up the good work, guys, says Mark. Yeah, I think regional press are a little bit scared to speak out against Mike Ashley because of the fear of being banned. I think that's basically what it is. We've seen it with the Chronicle. They were banned for speaking out against Mike Ashley. I know Luke Edwards spoke out against Ashley last night. Yes, the mainstream media. But having said that, though, Jake Humphries does acknowledge the suffering of what Newcastle fans goes through on his personal Twitter account. So there is some out there. Granted, the people who are over on BN Sports, Andy Gray, Richard Keys, Tim Sherwood, Craig Bellamy, there's 4 I could name you straight away as well. This is another message, no name. The Reuben Brothers representative is currently on the board at QPR. Any news of him resigning yet? That's Jamie. That's not the main two. I know Jamie's on the board at QPR. If he's going to come to the club, can we take Les Ferdinand as well, please? Bring him back. But realistically, Jamie Reuben is the son. If he has involvement, he has to resign. So there's no news of that. I think that's going to be kept very quiet. Hope this takeover happens. There's another one. It would be insane. Again, there's no name left on that one. And the final one is Ryan from Newcastle says, Who would you want club legends like Shearer and Keegan to have a role in the club? Yeah, definitely. I think Liverpool do this really well, where they have a lot of ambassador roles. We don't. You've got John Beresford, John Anderson. But apart from that, Bob Moncur, of course. I would love to see Shearer back. Shearer said he wouldn't last week come back to the manager role, but I think Keegan from ambassador role definitely, and I would love to see people like Rob Lee have a role and stuff like that, and they could name all the list throughout the years. A couple more WhatsApps have just come through as well. Do you think Bruce deserves a chance with the money, or do you think he needs to see out the season and then go and bring somebody to basically make the club to the next level? I've just answered that, to be fair. If the takeover does happen, let Bruce have the rest of the season, and then I would make that change. Unless you're going to get Rafa, because I know the Chinese season has been delayed and about to start. Josh says, what league finishes do you expect in the first season of the new owners? Depending on who we sign, probably realistically a comfortable top 10, pushing Europa maybe. For that, there's loads more coming through. I'm just going to switch this to the live chat as well. Max Allegri says, Christopher, it's a shout, but you'll have to pay him a lot of money to come, and you'll have to be shown the project, the ambition for it to come. After the takeover, bring back Rafa, and that was by Carl Legend 9. Jason Keegan is nearly 70-year-old. Does he have the appetite? I think for ambassador role, why not? Why not indeed? What else we got? Lauren Robert, free kick specialist, says Brendan. Yeah, he's been in and about on his Instagram account wearing the Newcastle shirts and stuff. A good friend of mine works for the Reuben brothers, and this is happening. The son is touted for a place on the board. It's more of an ego thing, he says. New striker, says Mason, and Paul says, why don't we buy the Liverpool team and win the league? And there'll be a few in that Liverpool team I would have at Newcastle. What we're going to do is, because we need an ad break for the radio, we're going to come back and have a big discussion. Kyle's going to join in as well. There is a quiz answer. See if you can answer this question, which you'll see on your screen. Go and grab a drink. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
When I walk into the kitchen, you saw the look on my face. You saw the look on my heart to get out of this place. I seen something I've never seen before. When you put on the pineapple, we couldn't be friends anymore. Pineapple blossoms, go on pizza. It's a fruit and you know that. Pineapple doesn't go on pizza. They just don't belong.
Right then, where did Newcastle sign Jonas Gutierrez from? A lot of you have got it in the live chat, so well done. For people who are listening back on Sunday, I'll give them a few seconds to think of that. I'll give you a clue. It's a La Liga side. That should be pretty straightforward. For most Newcastle fans, that was by Sam who sent us that question as well. What we'll do before we bring in Kyle, because we're going to have a discussion on if the takeover happens, what we're going to do, what do we need to improve on in terms of the club, fans, commercial, all that kind of good stuff as well. We have had a lot more WhatsApp come through. We've got Mallorca, that's the answer, Real Mallorca. A lot of you have got that right in the live chat, so really well done. And WhatsApp message, no name with Mallorca, which is the correct answer, yeah. Right, let's work upwards. And another message without any name over on WhatsApp says, if a takeover was to happen, do you think Richie still has the chance to be at the club? I think half the Newcastle squad, not all of them, but I think half the better Newcastle players will still be at the club for at least 18 months to 2 years. If you look how the trend works with a takeover, you still have a core of your better players staying until they bring in the big names. I still think Matt Ritchie will probably still be at the club. I know he's talked about Portsmouth and wanting to end his career down there, but he's just literally signed a new deal, so I would expect, like I say, the big boys to stay the better players at the moment until the big boys come. Who would you like to see replace Bruce? Well, before the takeover, I've always said Gus Hiddink, if you can get him, because his CV, he's free agent, so I've always said Gus Hiddink, but considering the takeover may take effect, you could throw a lot of names at there. If you bring Rafa Benitez back, I'm not going to say no against Rafa Benitez. I know there's a small section who are not a fan of Rafa, but majority of people are. Hi Lee, Scott from London, mate. Watch your channel all the time and think it's fantastic. Which players from the current crop of squad would you be wanting to keep? We don't want to just change it all straight away, but there's a lot of players who aren't good enough to challenge for the top half place. Quite similar to the answer that I've just given before, so thanks Scott for your message. You probably look at your first team, you probably say Dubravka, the captain, Lascelles. You'll probably say a couple of the centre-backs. I'll definitely keep Fabian Schär, I'm a fan of Fabian Schär. And you'll need a core probably to keep a couple of Geordies in there. I would still like that, even if they're not playing. And then you probably look at maybe, are you going to get better than Shelby? And what about the Longstaffs? Matty and Sean, they need their contract sorted. I want to keep them even if that takeover happens. Alan St-Maximin, Miguel Miron, there's the list. They're probably the core that I'll probably keep and work around as well. No name again. What do you think our summer transfer would be, and do you think the corona will affect prices in the window? Depending when the transfer window gets moved by FIFA, it's probably going to be something along the lines of June to August, or maybe it's going to be July to September. I think it will. We talked about this a little bit last week. I think what will happen with a lot of transfers, I think you'll probably see a lot more loans turn into permanent to be on the safe side, in particular lower end Premier League, higher end Championship. I think you'll see a lot of loans come in. Paul, who I know personally, Jammy, hello mate, how you doing? He says, what would you prefer to see first? First, work on the academy, the venue and behind the scenes, especially the hot turn from Asda. And then he says, the stadium, would you like TLC and maybe made bigger if possible? Jammy. Cheers, mate. I think out of those two, if you push comes to shove, I think the academy first. The stadiums, the back end of the stadium, which we'll talk about in a moment, I think it's a bit rotty. There's a lot of mould around the east stand going round to the Leazes, but the front, the club have made small changes and it does look better, but I'll probably say the academy, because you want to start getting have better facilities, means you can relax a lot more. We don't have a swimming pool. The players have swimming pools, but the club doesn't. But I would say the academy, and it means it can start bringing, hopefully, talent more coming through. Liam says, as we need a striker, do you think Timo Werner, what a player he is, for Leipzig is a realistic target? And maybe Edouard from Celtic. Well, Timo Werner is banging the goals in for Leipzig, left, right and centre in the Bundesliga. German international. You would take him. I think to convince him, is Newcastle bigger than Leipzig at the minute? No, but if the takeover happens, possibly, I think what will probably persuade Werner's probably money, his wages, and the Premier League are playing there as well. Steve Sully, thank you very much, mate. I'll read, fellas, how does everybody feel about the possibility of us turning at Manchester City in the years to come? In terms of success, I would love it. You know, a lot of Newcastle fans, and I've seen it on Twitter, I was there when we were such and such. I can't repeat it because obviously it's going to be on radio as well, but to be honest, if we win stuff, I think just winning a trophy, even if it's the League Cup, that's all we want, a bit of hope. I think hope is what we really, in the short and medium term, I think hope is what we want. We don't have it under Ashley, unfortunately. Jabba, who's the one who gave us the answer for Mallorca as well, he says, Mike Ashley's a Dementor stuck in the soul of Newcastle, but fans. Amanda Staveley uses the Proteus charm to get us back to normal. I feel like I'm in a Harry Potter movie there, Jabba, so thank you very much for your comments as well. We're going to move over to the section in a moment, just trying to rattle through these. Josh says, when do you think will we actually allowed to get back to normal and attending the games? Well, Josh, stay tuned because we're talking about that a little bit later. And the final one, please keep your WhatsApps coming through. And no name again, do you not think we are going to go far with this? And I've been so fooled so many times. I think this has a little bit of concrete proof because there's been a legal document signed on company houses. The only thing that I don't want to see is more and more stuff coming out that we shouldn't be seeing, because it happened with the Benzaï group as well. Right, I can see you all in the live chat, so thank you very much for all your Facebook and your YouTube comments. We must move on. And this one's a lengthy one. Go and grab a cuppa. Kyle's joining us on this. Keep your debate coming on, and remember to keep your WhatsApp coming through as well.
The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Lee. Yeah, we're into part 2 now. It's basically what happens next. Say this takeover goes through and the Premier League are happy, then it's pretty much a done deal by what most journalists are saying. I'm here to introduce Kyle. Kyle's here for part 2 as well. Kyle, the first thing really, what happens next? And the first thing I'm going to talk about in particular is sponsorships. So the likes of your Fun 88, Puma's contract runs out at the end of this season as well. What can you imagine will be a priority in terms of the new potential owners? Will they look for somebody global, and to match that, will they maybe get an Adidas or a Nike, someone like that, for example, to kind of jump on the bandwagon?
Well, with the money they're talking about, Jonny, you're probably looking at a big brand coming in to sponsor. I don't think we'll be sponsored by the same sponsors, that's for sure. I just think with the amount of money involved and with how seriously these are allegedly taking the club, if they take over the club, then you're talking much bigger than Fun 88 and things. I know they've got a fantastic social media team, but I think they'll be let go, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have a bit of optimism on this, and not just on this channel, but on the whole fan base as well, because it's been long overdue, this takeover. So fingers crossed, this is the time.
Yeah, you're completely right there, Kyle. Lee, Puma, not really look like they were going to get a new deal anyway, so it wouldn't be a massive surprise if, say, I don't know, I'll just put one out, Umbro came in and decided to sponsor Newcastle. Do you think that might change now as well because of the fact that someone massive in financial terms is coming in potentially?
First, with Puma, I don't think many of the kits have been well liked. Probably the only one I've got from Puma that I really liked was the retro one that they've done, the way one, because that obviously brought me back to being a kid. But I could see even companies who don't know. No one knew Fun 88. So I could see some Saudi Arabic writing company or whatever. I think they will be looking at the commercial side, because that's what Newcastle struggle as. Whereas you look at other Premier League clubs, the big boys, of course, are in another league on their own. Our net profit is really 2 million and 9 million, and it's not much. And for us to go at that next level, because of financial fair play, we need investment in terms of commercial. I think Staveley will have contacts. Of course, the Saudis will have contacts, maybe even the Room brothers. But in terms of Puma, I agree with Kyla. Now is the opportunity to get rid of them and get a bigger commercial revenue for the club.
Bring back Isaacs, tops like this. It's what we need, man. Something like this.
Adidas,
get the Northern Rock back on. Brown ale, bring it on. I'd love it, mate.
But I think Lee's right, though, Kyle. We need to be bigger globally. And that's got to be the push, hasn't it? Because if you look at Manchester City, they've gone from there to there. Like, it's out the screen now. That's how big they are in terms of globally. They're not, yes, I'm not Manchester United. I'm not Liverpool. They're Arsenal. If we're talking the established big three, if we're being brutally honest, in terms of size of club. But they've got to two massive stages where, you know, I'll take an example. They've had players like, I don't know, Samaras was up front for them. Now, because they've maybe got the likes of Aguero coming in, he's opened up a new South American kind of global fan, you would think, for Manchester City because of how big he is, and they've moved that on. It just kind of makes it all worthwhile if you decide to do it that way, I suppose.
It's a difficult one, Jonny, because at the moment we're still under the shackles of Mike Ashley, if you will. So it's hard to think of all these different things. You think of what could we do first? Players, stadium, training ground. Mike Ashley's neglected this football club for so long. There's that many things to deal with. Like, it's not just going to be an easy task if these new owners come in to sort out, Jonny. There really is. The amount of time it's been neglected, it's going to be a long fix for Newcastle United, and these new owners will need time if the deal is agreed and everything goes through smoothly. And now, when new owners, they're going to need a lot. They're going to need a couple of years to sort everything out. It's not just going to be click of fingers, bring Mbappe in, and we'll win the league by 20 points every season. It's not going to happen like that. We need to be a part of the process and get the training ground sorted and sort the foundations out first, as well as and then a part of that is like the brand, the sponsorships, everything. But it's a long fix, Jonny. It really is, because this man has neglected.
I think we've done that. We're signed Key, we're signed Mutu. So are we really signing them for the football abilities, or we're trying to sell shirts? So it has been done in the past. We've seen a lot of following for Solomon Rondon. I know Kyle's gonna say he's a very sexy.
Absolutely.
But we have had random players around the world who had a bit of a cult and following. Obviously, Lano, I mean, the only Peruvian. You could go on and on and on. I don't necessarily think they'll target an individual who has a big following. I think it's trying to move Newcastle to that next level.
Yeah, for sure.
Kyle, I've kind of had my opinion personally in the last section about Steve Bruce potentially. How much longer do you think he'll be in the job because of maybe a new owner wanting to have their own person at the helm? Yeah. Do you worry for Steve Bruce in the long or the medium to long term at Newcastle United?
I do actually, Jonny. Because if you remember back, and I've been looking for this article all over the place, and I can't find it for the life of us. But Amanda Staveley's husband talked about Rafa Benitez and how they would still buy the club in the Championship as long as he was still manager of the football club. Now, that was a long time ago. I can't find it anywhere, but I've been looking for it for the Facebook page. There's got to be something there where they try and get him back, because it's not as if he's at a big club and he's tied down by a huge contract. He's on he's got 2 years on his contract left in China, and I think I'd be very surprised if they didn't attempt to try and go in for Rafa Benitez. I really wouldn't be.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Kyle, I completely agree with everything that you're saying there, because, you know, he has got big admirers from Amanda Staveley, and you've perfectly set it up for Lee to expand on why Amanda Staveley would probably recommend to the Saudis and the Rubin brothers, you need to get Rafa Benitez in. Why do you think that Rafa Benitez is their man? Why do you think they want to go after him, if you believe what reports are saying, rather than other managers that are already, you know, good managers that haven't got jobs at the minute?
I'll come on that in a second, but just going back to the other one, the best time to get Rafa would be now, because their season hasn't started, so it wouldn't have any interruptions. But two things for me is, first, his CV. It speaks volumes of everywhere he's been. Most clubs he's been a success at. Newcastle he took where it's not his fault. He had 8 games to try and save us. If the league started, we would have finished in mid-table when he came in. But we're straight back up. You had to sell players to bring players in, got with mid-table and continued that mid-table. And then he wanted to progress and he wasn't given that opportunity. And we're seeing it last summer, the carry on that happened. The second part is that I think he's got that connection instantly straight away. That gets him ahead of a lot of people. So there's only a few people who have that. Keegan, Shearer probably are out there, but they don't. Will Keegan come back? That's another. Shearer's not experienced enough, but Rafa is ready-made, world-class manager who could just walk straight back in, bang, connection with the fans. He knows what to say. He's very clever at what he says. He plays the media brilliantly. He's just...
He can handle the pressure of the football club as well, Lee, which a lot of managers have proven in the past can't.
He's been in Real Madrid, one of the biggest clubs in the world. He's won the Champions League. He's been in all these leagues. He's been in Napoli, changed them around. So I think the two reasons is his CV, and he's well respected and he's loved up here. Probably 90% upwards love Rafa.
Yeah, I agree.
Would you say, Kyle, that had Newcastle had just moved on from Rafa and they kind of almost accepted that Steve Bruce said, you'd have to say he's done a good job at Newcastle FA Cup quarter-final. He's sitting on 35 points at the minute. Had Newcastle just kind of not forgotten about Rafa, but kind of gone, do you know what? We need to move on. We need to move on from Rafa Benitez because
I think
Steve Bruce has just come in and he's done a pretty good job.
Well, he has. I think if the stars were to align, Jonny, and the new owners came in and Rafa soon followed and things like that, I think Steve Bruce would go down a bit like a Daryl Murphy. Like, do you remember when he came in? It was like, oh, he's a former Mac. But he left with kind of a respect there, and it's like he did his job. He did all right. He did what he had to do, and he exceeded expectations, and he left with his head held high. He'd be kind of like that. I think if Bruce was to leave, he would be held in higher regard than he was when he first came through the door, for sure. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they did what Man City did with Hughes and they give him a little bit of a chance. But you don't know, do you? It's all there to be seen if the takeover does happen. I'm not going to say when and get me cans out and start streaking down the street. It's literally a case of we just need to see and wait what happens.
Lee, what do you think about Lee Charnley's position in all this? You know, at the minute he's kind of like a yes man for Mike Ashley in the sense that, well, he basically goes, you know, what do you want? Right, I'll get that for you. You know, how much do you think this costs? Right, we'll need to do it at that price. You know, anything that Mike Ashley wants, he's doing it for him. The fact that Mike Ashley's selling the football club, do you see Lee Charnley being there for even in the immediate short term, or do you think he'll be told, look, you haven't got a future with us?
I think you haven't got a future. I think it has to be that way. I think, again, that'll get your fans on board straight away. There's so many things that these new people can come in and just change like that. And it's already, I love them already. It's so many. There's loads you can go through. Like I was saying in the chat, I was saying to Sam, ambassador roles for people like Shearer and ex-players, and you could just easily move them in. And it's so easy. But I think Charnley's days are numbered. Unfortunately, an ex-member had a bit of a fetish with him, but he's gone now, unfortunately. Most of the Newcastle fans population don't like him. But I tell you what would be interesting is if he spoke once he had left the club, the real true, because we don't know if he's been ordered about. We don't know if he has a say in it. It's because with the communication with the club, it's just not there. It'd be really interesting if it's an article or an interview 6 months, 12 months later, and we were like, well, wait a minute, we didn't actually know that. I can see why Lee Charnley's in that position, but we'll not know that. But that'll be interesting if that came out later on. But his days are numbered.
Derek Lembias didn't do that, Lee. He didn't come out and say, oh, Mike Ashley did this and that, and I was there, paid to ransom to stay quiet and things like that. Lee Charnley won't do that. He'll just go off into the sunset with his little bonus. Ta-ra. Bye.
One of them did. Which one was it? Was the one that Chris Mort's group?
Yeah, Chris Mort, when he first left, the first year that Newcastle had been taken over under Ashley, he had gone by, even before Keegan had gone, he had gone. I think he kind of saw what was going to happen and saw that something bad is going to happen sooner rather than later, and he ran at the right time. But it'd be interesting to see if certain members of the certain staff members, like there's a very good article on The Athletic, which Chris Waugh, who we've had on the show before, I've had on the show a couple of times with Newcastle Fans TV, in that it was quite toxic at times. But what I would say is it's a very good article if you want to read about Mike Ashley's hopefully end of his tenure at the football club. It's a really good read on The Athletic.
Are you getting paid by them?
What?
This isn't sponsored by The Athletic.
Are you getting paid by them, Jonny? Is this what this is about? Because there is also some fantastic articles elsewhere as well.
There is on NewcastleFansTV.com. There you go. Kyle, last question on Lee Charnley. Was he the man with the impossible job?
I've got no sympathy for him, Jonny. I really don't. He was just a penfold apologist for the regime that was in place. If he wanted to say something, he had chances at forums and things like that to really get his point across that he's got a difficult job here. And I think there was a clip last year of a fan videoing him in the street trying to talk to him, and he's just walking blank on him. He was just not a man of the people. He was just a man for Mike Ashley. Got no sympathy. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. That's it. Bye, Charnley. See you later. Ta-ra. No sympathy.
We bumped into him 2 weeks running at Palace, and you had I think he's called Glenn, the security guard that follows them around, and he was waiting in his car boot, looked over and seen me, Jonny, Fordy, Isha, and who else was there? Owen. And he seemed a little bit wary of moving from his car.
Intimidating figures, man. Intimidating figures.
Well, yeah. And then obviously Owen with his gob hurling abuse at him. But
Bournemouth hooligan, as Owen's known as down in the south.
And then me and Sam seen the West Brom when he just put his head down and walked dead past her. I just think that again that comes down to communication with the fans. There's nothing there.
No, of course not. And let's move on to a last couple of points before we pass it back to Lee. The one thing that is being mentioned quite a lot is the human rights investigation, maybe the right word to go with, in terms of the Saudis. Lee, are you concerned about the allegations in regards to this company and its human rights stuff, or are you kind of not massively bothered because it hasn't really affected us?
I'll be honest, I don't care. As brutal as that may sound, I care about Newcastle United and the success. I know there's controversy, of course there is, with the Saudis that they've been allegedly, and I've got to stress allegedly on everything on this, because I'll get myself into trouble, that they've allegedly obviously paid off journalists, killed journalists, quieting people, the stuff in Yemen, invading countries and all this kind of stuff. Some people might call it blood money to some extent. Look, I'm not the expert to because I don't know too much about that kind of civil rights and all of that kind of stuff. In all honesty, I know that sounds selfish. I don't really care where the money comes from to some extent, because I'm a Newcastle fan. If it comes from stuff that is not great in terms of how can I word without saying it, is troubles, shall we say, I'll put it like that. In some extent right now, I don't really care. If it started to affect the fan base and Newcastle United and the ground, because the way I'm going to look at it is the Premier League will do these checks to fit and purpose. If they deem that these guys who are coming in are fit to run this club and have the money to financially back that, I've got no problems with that because the checks have been done.
Kyle, what do you think on this? Because they're not the most pleasing on the eye if you look at it on those allegations. We have to stress that. But are you in the same camp as Lee that at the end of the day, money is money? It doesn't matter if it's from, little old Benton or Brazil or Barrow or wherever it is. It's money at the end of the day. And
good day at Barrow.
Only been a couple of times.
Well, for me, you look at the Saudi Arabians, and maybe 20 years ago, if this was the question being asked, then I would probably say, you know what, they probably have a point. But you look at what they've done the past couple of years. I mean, Anthony Joshua's fought there. WWE, a massive global powerhouse in terms of putting on sporting events, and they're very PG in what they do. They've hosted massive events there. I think they do a couple of events yearly now there.
Met the Queen. Mohammed bin Salman met the Queen.
Yeah, there's a lot of progressive things going on in Saudi Arabia, and I feel like if these people that are going to question and high in Newcastle fans' face that, oh well, he's an immoral man and all this and that, why weren't these people speaking up when Anthony Joshua was boxing Andy Ruiz in Saudi Arabia? Why wasn't this mentioned when WWE was going over there? Why weren't you speaking up then? Why is it only when Newcastle are going to be bought by these people are you throwing it in my face? It's like they tried to do it to Man City when they were first took over. It's like it's just silly, really. If they pass the fit and proper person's test, there isn't a problem.
Lee, can they adapt?
Well, they're trying to muscle in, aren't they, in sports? Because you don't really associate that part of the world with sport. You don't dare. I know the Qatar neighbouring country won the rights. I'm saying that in inverted commas because obviously there's a lot of alleged payments that they were paid off to host the World Cup. And they're trying to muscle in with obviously producing much more better stadiums and so on, putting a lot of money into businesses. So it might be the new force for the next 10 to 15, 20 years. That part of the world, they like the Middle East, the Gulf area. Can they adapt in terms of, that'll be down to why you probably have a football person in charge of Newcastle United, maybe Amanda Stabley or a director of football to help the transfer recruitment and so on, whereas the money will be funded from the powers that be. I would be shocked if we just had a non-footballing person, because what Manchester City did, and they realised that, is that they brought in someone who understood business in terms of football. What's he called? Alshabrook? I don't know how he's called. The guy with the curly hair who runs Manchester, who runs the
I know who you're on about.
Ins and outs of like everything with Manchester City and made them that global power. So he got that, and he's a football person. So I think that will probably be I think the question is, yes, they can adapt. But I think there'll be a financial growth in that area of the world for the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, for sure. I think it might be the perfect time for a Saudi Arabian firm, let's call it a firm or a company, to take over a football club. And if it's Newcastle and it works, who are we to complain? Get your comments in on WhatsApp as well. If you're listening on watching on YouTube, get your comments in, or on Facebook, Twitter. Again, the WhatsApp number's there if you want to interact with Lee on the show live as well. So get involved. The number will be on the screen, or if you're listening, it'll be mentioned from Lee at the start of the show as well. The last thing I want to talk about, gents, is TLC in regards to the training ground and the stadium itself. Was touched with the ground first, and Kyle, you've been emotionally involved. I'm going to put that in regards to any investments, shall we say, around the ground.
Yeah,
potentially this could be stopped if a new owner was to come in. Could that potentially start an expansion of the ground? Potentially the Gallagher's. The East End's a little more difficult, but money will talk, won't it?
It's difficult to say because the Saudi Arabian company or Amanda Staveley or the Reuben brothers would have to buy the land around it, and then it's a process really. But if the Saudi Arabians want to expand St James's Park, I think they'd be able to do that. I really do. But like I said to you earlier, Johnny, there's a lot of things in the pipeline they need to sort before they talk about stadium expansion and things like that. Because St James's Park, as it is it's a fantastic ground as it is. Do I want to see an expansion in the future? I'd love to see it, but there's so many things to sort out first. Training ground, players, staff, how we're understaffed, the look of the ground currently, although it's had some improvements in the past year, there's still a lot of problems. There's loads to sort out, Johnny, but would I like to see an expansion in the future? Absolutely.
Lee, would you agree that with success, maybe, you can do all these things because the demand will be there?
To some extent, we discussed in the first section that you're not going to spend 125 million or 150 million on a player. That's not going to happen because you can't get that income back straight away within 3 years. I think being smart, and I think the club have done some bits around where the Sir Bobby Robson statue is, but in the back end of the stadium is quite mouldy. It doesn't look great. It's quite tatty. So little things like that, toilets has been highlighted, simple things like lights, the staff being on furloughs, they're considering, because now a lot of the Premier League teams have listened to the fans and reversed that decision. So there's 3 have done that. It's only us and Norwich, so that's a little bit worrying. Don't think that would happen if there was another regime here, mind. In terms of extending the stadium, I think that's going to be tough now. For 2 reasons. Is because it's already in motion. The pipeline, the car parks are now cordoned off. that the trees are down, that's going ahead now. To stop that, that's a long, big task. I'd love it to stop, but I just can't see that now. I think you're going to have to try and work with them and see if you can have an influence on how it looks, or can we leave a gap or whatever. But the second thing with that is that ambulances can't get in and out. And that's a huge problem. So I think you would have to either open up another road, possibly the one where, do you know, where if you go along past the Strawberry and you've got the traffic lights,
Yeah.
you can't turn right and get onto that road because it's blocked off. Maybe open that to a emergency route or something. That's one idea that you could look at, because ambulances, that's more important than unfortunately, it's more important than a stadium expansion. And then the council have got to get involved, legal rights. It's tough. It will be tough. I don't think that land, I think it's too far gone now. I think the contract's been won and it's been approved by the council. And to win that back, you're going to be paying way over the odds if you want that. It's kind of, they only bought it for 9 million or something like that. I'll probably think that'll inflation quadruple, more than quadruple, double that, double or quadruple. I just cannot see it. But in terms of short term to medium, training grounds, facilities, and then the odd player staff. Can you get better world-class coaches in, physios and stuff like that? Is probably the way to look forward in the short to medium term. Long term, the stadium expansion, can it be done? Tough one, that.
All I will say on that is that you're saying if it's cost them 9 million, you might have to pay over the odds. Even if you pay over the odds and you're saying quadruple the amount, that might be a drop in the ocean for the people that we've got coming into the club.
Is it too far gone, though? Because now they've got the contract and now they're building. Yes, the coronavirus situation has halted that. But now the car parks are cordoned off, the trees are down, there's a couple of skips in there, there's a couple of banners in there now with obviously the contractors. To stop that, you've got to... How can you stop that? Is it just a case of money? No. Is it a legal thing? Is it back to the council? It's a tough one. It is a tough one. Me and Kyle feel quite passionate about that. I'm updating it quite a bit on the socials with it. It's... Me and Kyle are probably the same, but like a lot of Newcastle fans, it's not just a view, it's a pride that you're walking into that city and you see your stadium. A bit of warmth. Sure. I'm happy, I'm home. But I think that'll go, unfortunately.
Kyle, training grounds, Newcastle haven't got the best of them, shall we say. There isn't a massive redevelopment job in waiting for the Newcastle's training ground. Could you see, if this takeover was to happen, even by the end of whatever the season will be, the work will start on that immediately?
I'd like to hope so. I mean, we're talking about all these things, Johnny, as if the takeover is already a foregone conclusion and it's done. Fingers crossed we'll get there, but it's all up in the air, isn't it? If it happens, what's next?
Is it a priority?
Sure. One of the priorities Rafa Benitez had when he was manager was sort the training ground out, please. That was one of the main ones, and as he famously said, they painted the walls in 3 years of them being there. But yeah, I'd say training ground is definitely priority, because it's not state of the art, is it? It's very it does the job, but obviously it could be better. You know what I mean? Yeah. So hopefully it's top of the. Hopefully we can get it sorted and it'll all be hunky dory.
Lee, what would you want to add to that?
It's just you've got some championship clubs with better facilities. That tells its own story. I'm not talking Premier League clubs that have dropped into the championship. I'm talking about proper championship clubs who have been in that division for 10 years, have better facilities than people like Alan St. Maximin or Federico Fernandez or Christian Atsu, all these internationals that play abroad. Bit of a joke, isn't it?
It's all a part of sports neglect, though, man. It's all a part of sports neglect. Mike Ashley's neglected this club for far too long. And the training facilities, the stadium, the fan base, it's all a part of it. And if this takeover happens, it's a breath of fresh air for everybody and a new start, hopefully. Fingers crossed that this is the time that it actually happens.
That's a perfect way to round it all off. So yeah, hopefully it seems that it's very, very close this takeover. And we've just kind of discussed a few things. So do you agree with some of the stuff that we're talking about? Make sure you WhatsApp. The number will be mentioned by Lee again. for the next part as well. And this is why I leave, and Sam will come in for the final part along with Kyle and Lee. Lee, it's back to you.
The Black and White Football Show, Sundays 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
And we are back, so we can always talk about the training ground. We can always talk about trying to improve the stadium and so on, but these are all ifs and buts. If this takeover goes through, and fingers crossed that we do have it come through. We'll hear from Jonny Edlin in just a second. He's the first Newcastle player to speak about the takeover. I think he's a little bit cautious of what he says. But let's have a look what he's saying in that live chat over here. Great, better than Sports Direct. Level the whole lot, he says. Lancashire Magpie says it's clear that the Saudis will be using the club to advertise some of their products and investments. I guess so, but if it means the club are successful, you wouldn't want that, would you? Mike actually has Sports Direct plastered all over St James's Park, and we're not successful. If it means that they do that and they're ploughing money in, fair enough. Only thing I think Newcastle fans wouldn't consider is having that stadium name change. I just don't think that'll go down well as well. Great, we've got a message on Periscope. Jonathan Tarr has a £35 million release clause, and Rafa has a £20 million buyout clause as well. Stuart over on Facebook says the buildings around the East Stand are listed, therefore it can't be demolished or ground development regardless of cost. That's true, Stuart, but what you could do is improve that stand because it doesn't look great when you walk past it. Just refurbish, I think it'll be the best. We've got a lot of WhatsApps. We'll read some of them out before we hear from Jonny Edlin about the takeover as well. No name again. He says, why Steve Bruce be a good... So I think I'll reword that. Steve Bruce to be assistant to Rafa Benitez if he was brought in. Knows the players, knows the clubs, and understands the fans. I cannot say that. Steve Bruce has been a manager for 20 years. If you're going to bring in an assistant, you would bring in someone who's possibly just retired. Or that length, so someone learns. That I cannot say that happens. Bruce will not accept that. He'll walk out. He'll probably get paid off, or another term, sacked and have a pay off as well. Let's have a look at the next one, which has come through as well. Thank you very much. It's Darren from Honiton. I hope I've said that right. How many of the current first team do you think are going to be at the tune in 18 months? Is the current squad realistically going to be part of the rebuild? I've kind of answered that a little bit earlier on, where I think there'll be probably 10, 11 players that'll stay, and then because you still have the better players in the core, a couple of Geordies in there as well. Does anyone actually want Rafa back? A new tune coach under the new players? It's one of them. We're talking about Rafa Benitez, haven't we already? I think I would personally have him back, but Rafa's had his time at the club and didn't get what he wanted. Are we going back to territory where is it going to be the same? I don't think it'll be as the same, but I wouldn't be against Rafa Benitez. I would have Benitez back, but is there other coaches with a new, fresh beginning? Who knows what Staveley says? I know Keith Downey said that Amanda Staveley will want Rafa Benitez back. They'll always say he should never go back. But Liam says, as the manager situation, the names I've seen mentioned, Steven Gerrard, Eddie Howe, what are your thoughts on that? I wouldn't just yet have Steven Gerrard because I still think he's learning the game. Eddie Howe, I wouldn't be against Eddie Howe coming to the club. I think he's been at Bournemouth for a long time, did some fantastic stuff. He probably needs that next challenge higher up the table. If Newcastle takeover does happen, that wouldn't be a bad shout. I wouldn't be against that. Mal from Stella, not far from here. I think Bruce deserves some credit if the takeover happens, says Mal. He does, because we're almost safe now, and we've got an FA Cup quarter-final, assuming it goes ahead, the FA Cup quarter-final tie. I think Newcastle fans would have took that, bitten your hand off once Rafa Benitez had left the club as well. Andy Fry says, hi guys, if the takeover happens, what would be the first thing you would do? Hashtag cans! Let's see some hashtag cans going on in that live chat. I think everyone will be taking photos of cans, and more cans. I think that is the first thing that we'll see happen, Andy. Another question, thank you very much. Another question for you, mate. And this is from Scott, who messaged us earlier. A player who's really got under the radar over the past days, Javier Manquillo. His contract is up soon. Since the Leicester game last season where we won 1-0, it's probably been, if not, one of the most consistent players that we have. Would you not be looking to keep him at the club? We kind of talked about that last week's show when Isha was on. I would have Javier Manquillo at the club, but I wouldn't have him as first choice. For me, we've got too many right backs, and none of them at the club at the moment for me are that next level. If you're going to keep Javier Manquillo, you've got to get rid of DeAndre Edlin and bring in another right back to be first team for me. I think he's a good squad player. He has improved, but he's not the answer. Steve Sully says, give Steve Bruce a season to see what he can do with some money. Fair point. A fair point. And Jamie says, come back through, what do you think? Maybe moving the stadium or the training ground to the Toon Moor in the future, if these so-called owners have the cash. Massive area, close to the town still. Well, it's just up Barrack Road, isn't it? It's a good shout, but I think there's something with the gentleman's agreement or something that they can... I'm not 100% certain on it, but something with the gentleman's agreement where I know the cows and obviously are grazed over... I don't know the full ins and outs. If it can happen, it is a good shout, but that'll probably be a long-term thing, I would have thought. Right, DeAndre Edlin. Keep your WhatsApp coming through. DeAndre Edlin, before we talk about the latest odds on this, this is what DeAndre Edlin said when he was questioned about the takeover on ESPN.
I mean, I think obviously the more money you have, the better players you can buy, and ultimately in most circumstances the better you'll be. But there's definitely to be a good team as well, you have to have players that are bought into what you're doing. So just because you buy an expensive player doesn't mean he'll be good for that team. But yeah, in most circumstances, the more money you have, the better, like I said, the better players you can buy, the better you're going to be. And in this day and age, you do need money to compete. It's kind of a fact. So we'll see what happens from the takeover. I know pretty much as everybody else. I'm following along on Twitter and stuff, and so I'm just as caught up on it as the fans are, but we'll see what comes of it and then move on if something happens.
Interesting what he said there, wasn't it? Kind of sat on the fence a little bit, DeAndre Edlin, but what he said at the end, you do need money to progress. Us as fans have known that. How many more Newcastle players, when they're interviewed, will say on this? We'll see a lot of them at the moment on Instagram, having join-ins. I know Jamie Sterry, Jamal Lascelles has had a Q&A tonight. He talked about the England squad, and I know Rolando Aarons goes live. How many more footballers will come out? But DeAndre Edlin, that's the thing that I've took out from that, is that you do need money to progress. And even he is saying that, even though he might lose his position if players do come in. A lot of the talk on the chat before was about managers, and these are the latest odds of yesterday. And these are from Paddy Power. It has slightly changed the last 24 hours, but this is what it was on Thursday night, that Benitez was listed at 3-1 with Allegri second, Gerrard, and then further down Pochettino, Roberto Martinez and Sean Dyche. If it wasn't Benitez and Allegri, because obviously they're the two that everyone would say, would you have any of the other four? I've seen a couple of them in the live comments before about Pochettino. Would anyone be against Sean Dyche? Is he the man for the next 2 years, just to not necessarily win trophies, but help Newcastle move up that league? Or is that too much? Personally, I'm not against. Personally, I'm against Martinez. I wouldn't want Roberto Martinez coming in. For me, it's quite similar to Everton. Everton didn't do enough for me at Everton, but let me know, of course, on the WhatsApp and of course in the live chat as well. Let's have a look what he's saying in the live chat. James says no. Give me Poch, says Peter Robson. Rafa's had his time. Interesting. Rafa or Poch for me, says Lancashire Magpie. Nothing to get excited about there, says Jason, about the list that we've read out. Interesting. What we're going to do is, it is due for a ad break, a little quiz question coming up, see if you can answer that. And then in the next section, Sam is going to be joining us, and we're going to be talking about playing behind an empty stadium possibility the Premier League have met today, and obviously a furlough because Newcastle haven't reversed their decision. We'll be back with you. Go and grab a drink in a couple of minutes.
Hey you, I saw you from the distance. Hey you, can we talk? Hey you, I think you're my subsistence. Hey you,
Right then. So, for people who are listening on Sunday, we signed Obafemi Martins from Inter in 2006, but how much did Newcastle pay for him? I can hear you shouting whilst you're driving in that car, shouting that figure out. How much did Martins cost us? Interesting question. That was from Kyle, so thank you very much for that. I'll give the answer away a little bit. A lot of you have got it already in that live chat as well, I can see as well. A lot of you are speculating about Joe Kinnear coming back and Chris Wilder, which I've seen as well. We'll just move over to WhatsApp dead quickly. 1 million for Martins. That's not the correct answer from Darren. I think you meant to stick a couple of zeros on there perhaps. Rafa, what about Rafa as director of football and a new manager? I don't think Rafa's finished in management yet. It's a good idea. I just don't think he is ready for that role yet. I think he wants to, maybe in about 5, 6, 7 years' time, but presently at the moment, I personally wouldn't say that. Mal from Stella's got the answer correct, like a lot of you have in the live chat. It was 10 million, technically 10.1, but yeah, it was 10 million to the nearest pound as well. Liam says, even though I loved Rafa, but my only concern is us getting Rafa is it reminds me of when West Ham appointed Pellegrini from China. And you know what happened to West Ham? I don't want that to happen to us, if you see where I'm coming from. I get that, Liam, but I think whoever comes in is going to have a load of cash, aren't they? You would think so anyways. When I say a load of cash, more cash than what the previous 13 years management has had. Section 4 is we're going to be talking about furlough. Here we go. This is Sam joined us on this chat. Empty stadiums, furlough, and Kyle is also with me on this one.
The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
Yeah, and thank you very much for all the interaction, the live chat and the WhatsApp so far. Remember to keep it coming. The number you can see on your screen. We've had a move around. We've kicked Jonny out the room and we've brought in Sam. Sam, how are you doing?
You lucky people. I'm very well.
You sound like Alan Smith.
So, not the first time.
Not the first time. You know I've got to get that dig in, don't you? Right. We're going to be talking about this one is empty stadiums because the Premier League, by the time this is recorded, would have met and having a discussion because of the coronavirus situation. How can we get this season ended? We'll talk on that in a minute. First, we want to talk about the furlough. Kyle, never really got your opinion on the channel so far about Newcastle United staff being on furlough. What was the initial reaction when you seen it?
No, I wasn't shocked. I mean, you do know who the current owner is, don't you? So it's just not shocking at all, mate. It's Mike Ashley. If he can find a way to not pay his staff, he'll go for it, and he'll use any dirty trick, anything necessary. He will. That's Mike Ashley for you. I mean, he tried to keep his stores open during the global pandemic. That's the man. That is Mike Ashley. The world's only just beginning to find out what kind of a man we've had to put up with for the last 13 years.
Which is probably a good thing non-football fans are actually realising what Mike Ashley's all about. Sam, at the moment, you're unfortunately on furlough as well. For people that are a little bit unsure what that is, can you just explain that a little bit?
Basically, it's I'm not allowed to work. The government are paying 80% of my wages. And then it's down to the company you work for whether or not they top that up. Fortunately, mine have. So it's not doom and gloom. It's just one of them. In regards to the furloughing at Newcastle, he's just saving a bit of coin before he eventually leaves, isn't he now? But let's face it.
Oh, you're getting the cans already.
I've currently got 24 in stock. So, yeah.
We need to be sponsored by Thatcher's. The amount of times you're swigging at Thatcher's when we're recording, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, head of promotions at Thatcher's, please get in touch at Newcastle Fans TV on Twitter or at Sam Mulliner on Twitter. And yeah,
maybe pop an email. That might work.
Maybe I keep tagging them in our videos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So there is any Thatcher's people out there, get in touch. Right. So more serious stuff then. Right. We've seen at first it was Newcastle, then it was Spurs put their staff on, which really surprised me. Norwich, Bournemouth, Liverpool, which two of those clubs would you consider the big boys in world football, never mind just the Premier League? And the first club were Liverpool to reverse that decision pretty quick, because effectively what Newcastle United don't do, Sam, Liverpool listened to their fans and reversed it within 48 hours.
Yeah. Liverpool have a great line of communication with their supporters. They listened. Tottenham soon followed suit. Bournemouth have now followed suit as well, along with Eddie Howe and his staff taking a pay cut. It's just the one thing that's been missing for the past 13 years. Hopefully, there's going to be some lines of communication with the new sets of owners, touch wood. Hopefully when it's all finalised and we've woken up from our Cannes exploits. Because that's the one thing that's been missing over the years. No communication. Even now, as we sit here, we've not heard anything from the club in regards to
they'll
this
take
sale.
silence to the grave, them lot, mate. They really will.
Yeah, it's mad. There was a report in the media this morning. The players are after clarification as well. But yeah, on the furloughing point, it's great to see clubs listening and taking action. It's what needs to happen more.
I think you're all right. And then obviously we're seeing Bournemouth, Spurs. Now, Daniel Levy obviously has took a lot of criticism, more than probably Mike Ashley to some extent. Although Daniel Levy's took a wage cut, which is honourable. Of course it is, but he's on a lot of money. Spurs eventually, they were wrong to do it, but they were still listening to their own fans. And is it a little bit embarrassing, Kyle, that Premier League clubs with all the wealth are trying to skip and scrape a few quid? Because let's face it, an average person's on 400, 500 quid a week per person, and you've got 150 staff to 300. That's not much. That's probably a 5% of a player's wage.
Yeah, it is embarrassingly. It really is. I don't understand why any Premier League club is trying to use this to pay their staff, because every Premier League club chairman has millions in the bank, every single one of them. So this shouldn't be a problem. While this pandemic's going on, that money that's going to these footballers that could be preventable could be going to someone that needs it a lot more than them. So it is a joke, like it really is. It shouldn't be happening, but people like Mike Ashley do exist in this world, and you do get greedy people, and that's a problem, not just football. Unfortunately, it's a global thing that will never go away.
So at the present moment, there's only Newcastle and Norwich. And Norwich, you would say, are a traditional family-led club, well-respected in the community, and they're not changing. So we'll have to say on that. We're going to just move off Furlough very briefly. That was just a brief one. The Premier League, of course, met today with the situation. And I listened to Talk Sport on the way to work the other day, and they were saying that a lot of clubs now are starting to get a bit itchy-tetchy with the contract situation. FIFA have, we talked about this in last week's show, the FIFA have allowed the extensions of Matty Longstaff, Manquillo, Carroll, Elliott, Callback for God's sake, to happen, and that'll force that through. So I think that should even itself out. How it works in terms of the start of the season, transfer windows and all that, that'll come later. But they're running out of time now. We're in, weather's changing, clocks have changed. We're now in the mid-April, and they're getting a little bit, is it safe to do so? And they've had a meeting today. I'm going to update you in a minute in the live version of this, of what the update and the statements were. But Sam, give me the cons of playing behind closed doors first.
Cons are very simple. You can't, if you've paid for your season ticket, obviously some of us, yourselves included, have already started paying for their season ticket for next season, let alone for the rest of this current season. What happens to that? Do you get a partial refund? Do you get kind of like an exclusive link to watch the game being broadcast? But there's a lot of logistics there. Football's, can you imagine playing or watching at home, playing Man City in the FA Cup in an empty stadium?
Oh, that would kill me. It would kill us inside. It really would. Ugh.
Or even worse, say you beat Man City and we're all sat at home watching on streamed at an empty Wembley Stadium. It's horrendous. But I think from what they're saying, they want the league's kind of done by the end of June.
Is that realistic?
It depends.
I think the domestic game could be done if you play Wednesday, Saturday.
Yeah, that's what will be happening all the way to the end. But it depends what happens with what's happening with the Europa League, Champions League, and stuff like that. What's going to happen with the FA Cup, which is obviously our real main focus now. We're safe in the league pretty much, aren't we? One more win should do it. Our main focus before we can focus on spending £1 trillion in the transfer window is that FA Cup game against City. Yeah. So it's going to be a rush, and this is something that's going to be felt right the way up till after the next World Cup. The snowball effect from this, you're not going to get things really go back to normal till maybe the start of the 23-24 season.
You mentioned also, well, we haven't actually mentioned that, commercial side, if there's an empty stadium, loss of revenue in terms of shops. I know none of us go to them, like actually shops inside the ground, but you know what I mean, in general terms across the UK, the stadiums, revenue is going to be right down, match programmes are not going to be sold. That's probably another bad side. But Kyle, let's talk positive. Give me
positivity.
If you can, give me the pros of playing games behind closed doors.
There's only one, mate. It gets the season done. That's it. That's the only thing. I mean, you don't want a lower league in England situation, or just recently a Scottish situation where it's cancelled and it's kind of just binned. I don't want that. I want to see the season reach its conclusion. I think the players deserve that. The fans deserve that. The managers in the leagues deserve that. You know, I wouldn't want a whole season to be for nothing. I'd feel for Liverpool, mind, if it was just scrapped 25 points clear. Be cursed them winning the league, because if they're not going to win it now with what's going on, then they'll never win it. It's just a curse. It's kind of a poison chalice for them, the Premier League title, isn't it? Just they must be on eggshells, Liverpool fans, especially more than us, because if they throw it out with the lead that they have in the league, they'll be gutted.
And even if they do play behind closed doors, they can't celebrate it with the fans. I mean, I know that'll probably
exactly.
But that moment where you remember Manchester United 11 fans are going to have that over them for the rest of their lives, that you won the title in front of no fans. It's one of them. It's
well, Man City have done it a couple of times.
Yeah, they've got pockets of second around the ground. You mentioned there, Sam, and I'll come back to you in a minute. I want to go back to Kyle again. The season tickets situation then. So let's say it's not safe to have a full house. I don't know how you're going to do social distancing, that's still in place. But let's just say, right, okay, all the games are going to be now behind closed doors. I think the positives are we'll get some football, definitely. That's the positive, and the season can end. But what happens with our money, Kyle, in terms of season ticket? Will the clubs be forced to reimburse?
Well, if Mike Ashley's got anything to do with it, we'll not say a penny, and he'll be, you've got a link to the website that never works for streams, you know, from the friendlies, lads, from gone when we paid a £5 and it just hasn't worked. If Mike Ashley's still in charge of the football club, we won't see that money again. No way. He's already took money off for no football the past month, so it's one of them, Lee. I don't know how they're going to handle it, but I'm sure they'll find the best solution. Fingers crossed in anyway.
The way I think they'll do it, and I'll come to Sam on this, is that if it's forced by the Premier League, the club have to do it. But if it's forced, that I think how Newcastle will probably do it is reduce the tickets next season if you renew. They'll be smart, clever about it for a business side of things. Whoever's in charge of hierarchy.
I mean, that's a good idea, to be fair.
Because trying to reimburse, how many home games? Is there 5 or 6, including the FA Cup? There's not many. So if you're going to have to reimburse 45,000 season ticket holders, that's a right carry on and admin work to go through. I think business sense, okay, your season ticket was, say, 90 quid a month. Next season, it's going to be 80. You're going to get your money back. That's probably the logic sense in that. But Sam, regarding broadcasters now, What happens with the contractual rights with international, with BT, Sky, and even BBC to some extent for the highlights?
We see so many things swirling around at the moment. There's talk of this outdated law of, obviously there's no Saturday 3:00 kickoffs allowed to be televised. There's talk of that being binned, which would be long overdue. BT and Sky were on about showing every game going, so there's obviously red button facilities there. Obviously Amazon did the same with the 2 sets of fixtures they had. So it might not be down to the clubs to stream it, it might be down to the broadcasters, which would kind of work in a way, because then they've obviously paid all that money, and the broadcast rights are worth a hell of a lot more than match day revenue from just ticket sales and whatnot. So at the end of the day, money talks. And if you want the season done, it will probably have to be behind closed doors, and that's probably the way that it's going to have to be. So
it's either that or you make it void, which we don't want.
No, we don't want the season voiding. Personally, for 2 reasons: one, the FA Cup, and 2, I want to see a certain team from the Midlands get relegated.
Don't Jonny will get upset.
Well,
7 visits to Aston Villa is done, you know. Has he told you that?
We might draw him in the cup next season. You never know. So, yeah. So, I mean, it'd be good for Sky and BT to broadcast all these games, but it just depends. Do they make some free to air, or do the clubs pay for your Sky package if you got a season ticket? I don't know. Who knows how they're going to work? There's a lot of logistics to it.
That's the thing. Is like the season ticket holder, it'll be unfair if they don't get a refund or a discount, whereas the average Joe can watch a Premier League game. I think
just put it on ITV or something, man. Just make it easy for everyone.
I think it's one of them, isn't it? But me and Kyle have become massive Belarusian fans of late. We know.
I did last week. My like for the Belarusian league has died. Dynamo Minsk, I watched them get hammered badly. They were awful, dreadful. I was last week. I was all up the Minsk and Dynamo Minsk combined shirt. I'm pricing up shirts and that for the next couple of months, and they'll be my isolation team. And I watched them playing. Honestly, yeah, I'm not. No, no. I've got enough with Newcastle being bad. I'm not supporting that. No way. I've formally withdrawn from the Belarusian league. I'll not be watching any more games.
The reason why I bring that up is because the Belarusian league is still running, and they've changed their structure. Because Sam's nicely brought that on, is that they are actually broadcasting their games for free at the moment. Obviously, it's to try and highlight the league. I don't think the Premier League will do that. Because they'll probably want to claw a bit of subscription money back. But every game you can watch in Belarus, and we've all of a sudden became experts at Dynamo Minsk and Slutsky and all of this kind of teams who are out there.
Well, we've got our own version of Belarusian football. It's called Sunday League.
Yeah, which we can't even do. We can't even do that in a minute.
So, no.
If you do want to watch Belarusian football, it's available on their YouTube channel. Just type it in, Belarusian top tier. You'll see it.
At your own risk, though, people. At your own risk.
But the reason why I'm highlighting that is because that's been proven that it's structured, that you can have one game after another live. But the negative is, and I'm not kidding myself here, Kyle, I had to turn my TV up to 100 just to hear some of the background noise. Is that an issue if we can then go behind closed doors, there's no atmosphere?
I mean, if it gets the games out of the way, I'm sure people will adapt for a couple of games. I mean, it would be different for us because I know you don't like the player ratings that being done in the house. So we'll have to get used to doing things like that for a couple of weeks. But I think it's just a case with the way the coronavirus has the world. I'm sure would all be able to adapt to the situation if the Premier League said, look, we'll play one game after another over the weekend, and for the rest of the season behind closed doors. I think people would just be happy to say that, because if anything, it gives us something to look forward to. I know it's behind closed doors, I know what kind of go, and I know this and that, but it will give something to look forward to. Oh, Newcastle's playing this weekend, great. Yeah, you have to sit in the house, but at least it's on, you know. it gives some for people to look forward to. I mean, there's that.
You're right in saying that, Sam. He's right in saying that. I can actually talk about football.
And be human again.
Not the takeover. Not class. We don't have to talk about retro years on this show anymore. We can talk about football for a change, of who played well, who didn't do well, formations. God, wasn't he awful? You know, like his tactics were wrong. Talk about the lineup. It's just talking. I've got to word this about little things that, you know, opens up a massive conversation. So what you miss, isn't it? Are you missing it in the minute, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm about to say is kind of prerequisited with, like, obviously, the world is crazy at the moment. This virus is horrible. Everyone's going to be affected by it from somehow. So it's a real serious, proper matter. But never again will I complain about Burnley versus Bournemouth 0-0 on a Super Sunday or anything like that.
Give it time, because I think you need to remember how bad them games are.
Yeah, I know, but there's something. So that's what I'm missing the most, is just live sport and just, yeah, I just want to get back to the football. I've got most highlights of Newcastle games from this season recorded on my Skybox. I mean, I sometimes flick on the Matty Longstaff goal against Man United just when I'm feeling bored.
Just watch it on repeat over and over again. It passes the hours. It just kills the hours. No
yeah,
bother. Raised Beck's commentary as well. Everything just came together. Perfect moment.
Yeah, but yeah, we want to start looking forward again. Obviously, things might start to become exciting again for us in the next few weeks and months, and we can really start looking up as opposed to over our shoulder. So we want to, hopefully this virus can
go away.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah.
Don't fall into the trap I did in part 2.
Yeah.
I said words.
Yeah, hopefully it can. We can get back to some kind of normality, and the place, the northeast Newcastle, it's just going to be absolutely buzzing.
And you get back to commentary duties as well. Kyle, going back to the coronavirus situation as well.
Yeah.
I think people are a little bit scared to say that they miss football. Am I right in saying that? Is it because there's bigger things happening in the world?
I think so, because obviously the stuff with the coronavirus, the daily stuff, especially last week with, like, Sir Boris Johnson being in intensive care, and the daily battle that the NHS have. Obviously, there's bigger things going on in the world, you know. So it is hard to say, where's the football and things like that, because it just seems, if from a perspective, it just seems stupid to say something like that.
But do you miss it?
I really miss football. I really do. As a football channel, it's a massive part of it. So yeah, I miss football so much. It's just a weekend routine of looking forward to the game. Now with the Facebook page content and things like that, I miss it a lot, and I think a lot of people do. But obviously, we need to focus on the bigger picture, which is fight this coronavirus, stay indoors, and all that spiel that the government will tell you. I mean, you don't need me to tell you. And then we'll fight this together. We'll get it to a place where we can control it, and then obviously we can start enjoying more luxuries again, like going outside, like going to work, like football. It's all them things that we'll miss in the end. Well, probably not the job bit, but football especially.
Some of us still have to go to work.
Uni student, me. I can't go to uni, mate.
You're probably like that in a minute. Sam, tell me how much you miss football, because we all do, and I think it's okay to say that you miss football. Yes, there's bigger things happening in life, but for a lot of people, including me, football is this escape for me. It takes me, I don't want to say it in a new world, but it takes
It's a release.
Yeah, it's release your 9-to-5 job, whatever job you do. You can talk about football, the good, the bad, the ugly, but it's a passion, and it's a great distraction. And if we still had coronavirus with football, of course it's not right, but it'll ease that worry, I guess, because you've got that distraction in sport. No matter what sport it is, whether it's golf, your cricket, your dart, whatever it is, we don't even have that at the moment, and it's like taking away your soul a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what Kyle says, obviously there are bigger things happening, but yeah, I miss it so much. It gives me something to look forward to. Obviously, during the time we've been under lockdown, there's been 2 occasions where I should have been coming up to you for Newcastle games. I should have been. I had hotels booked for the City quarterfinal and for West Ham last Good Friday. So when them days come round, you think, oh, I should be in Newcastle now. I should be, Yeah, that is my ticket.
There you go, Sam.
So that might be worth nothing if it's behind closed doors, but there you go. So yeah, it's one of them. It gives you something to look forward to, especially obviously I'm not from the area like you pair are, but it gives me something to look forward to, and I make a weekend of it when I come up. So it's just these things when I'm not up there. Obviously, I'm either doing in-play updates for the Twitter feed, or I'm watching it on Super Sunday and Monday Night Football and whatnot as well. So it's a big part of all our lives, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? For a lot of people, it's like a social event as well, where sometimes it's over 2 days, and you're taking that away as well. I know you can't socialise at the moment. The last question before I wrap up on this bit is, when do you think it will be, Kyle, that we have football back in terms of Premier League of Meta-Day, whether that's behind closed doors, or do you think it'll be in a month's time, or how long do you have a crowd back?
Personally, I think football will be back properly, like us going to the ground and things like that next season. I really think it'll all be played behind closed doors, and it will kill us seeing a quarter-final played while nobody's there and things like that, and it just kills the atmosphere and whatnot. But
you got a drone?
A drone?
I will get a drone. We'll fly out of the stadium.
No, I don't think so. But no, I think it'll be next season, and I'm willing to wait for that, because if the stars align, lads, the way we've got to look at it, if the takeover happens, first time we're allowed outside in months, it could make for one hell of a day at St James's Park when it all does come back. Do you know what I mean? So it'll be worth the wait. Put it that way. It will be worth the wait.
Sam, when do you think?
As predictions go, I kind of agree with Kyle. I think we'll probably get back underway June. I'd be amazed if there's football being played before June. And then, yeah, that'll probably be behind closed doors. So you probably are looking next season when we're allowed back in the stadium again. But just imagine that first day back at St James's Park, new owner, new start, new beginnings. It's going to be a hell of a day.
Ashar Khans.
There'll be more than Khans.
Oh, yes. Well, this is the thing. This is what's been taken away. Obviously, I made the promise that when the takeover was done, I'd come up and I'd be topless under Sir Bobby Robson statue drinking cans. But
don't make these promises, because Paul's done this as well. We've held on to it.
Well, maybe I'd just have to go topless and sit on my lad's swing with a can. I don't know. I'll come up with something.
We've already getting Charlie teached on, let's say, hashtag cans. We know that it's coming.
Yeah, he's not stupid.
No. The poor lad's got to be Newcastle fan. Poor Ben.
Might not be a poor lad once this takeover happens.
Exactly.
Come on.
I was about to say to that as well. Right, we're going to wrap up for section 3. Remember, fire over your WhatsApp. The number's on screen. I'm going to head back to me being live. Sam, thank you for coming on today. Also, Kyle, thanks for coming on as well for the 2 sections.
No bother.
The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
Let's just hope the football comes back really, really soon, doesn't it? What we're going to do next, yes, the cat has moved the webcam again. Yeah, it's always the black and white one. We're going to just basically read out a few of your WhatsApps, and then we've got a little DeAndre Yedlin clip to read out as well. Couple of WhatsApps, here we go. And this is from Vietnam, of all places. Yeah, wow. Do you think Benitez will return to St James's Park or Bruce stays? Kind of answered that already, but I'll answer it again. I think Bruce will probably have the rest of the season, and that'll be it. And then if Benitez comes, I'm not against it, but if it's a fresh start, then so be it. I don't know on that one, 50-50. Second thing, I want to know if our club is trading capital loss right. Does it affect the financial fairness laws when Newcastle wants to buy players? So at the moment, I think a lot of clubs are worried about financial side of things because of the coronavirus situation. I think they are losing match revenue. Further down the leagues you go, they're losing more. But yeah, we'll see how that goes, and hopefully we'll get football back. We talked a lot about that in that football part as well. Liam sent us another message saying, would you agree that cancel this season where Liverpool wins the league, Norwich, Villa and Bournemouth gets relegated, Leeds and West Brom and Fulham gets promoted? I think it'll be them three. No, I don't think that's right. I think you've got to finish the season, and if that means going into July and August, so be it as well. The last WhatsApp message of the night before we hear from DeAndre Yedlin. What would happen with Isaac Hayden due to his daughter's health issues if the Premier League came back and he would play? So I think it's not as bad as his health issues with his daughter. I presume he's down south at the moment because of isolation. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. So I don't think that's a huge concern with Isaac Hayden at the moment. What is I saying in the live chat? When we'll see a Rebel takeover, except or not. Rafa's revenge, but they'll want Allegri. Interesting. Nice one, Craig. Right, we've got DeAndre Edlin, and we've got his actions of what he said about the season coming towards an end. And DeAndre Edlin's basically just said that he wants to keep the season going. This is what he said.
First and foremost, finances have to not be looked when it comes into this, because you're talking about people's lives, and that's greater than anybody's money. So that's first and foremost. So, obviously as a player, you want to get back playing, and you'd love to see the season finish. But if it's not right, if it's not the right circumstances and people's health are coming into it, then you can't do it. I think there's really nothing else to be said about it. It's quite simple. We all want to see the season finish, but like I said, if it can't happen, it can't happen. So I know it's a time of uncertainty for a lot of people, which kind of gets people anxious and giddy and things like this. But yeah, we'll just wait and see what happens. But to answer your question, yeah, I'd love to see the season finish. I don't know a player that wouldn't, but hopefully everything comes out the best, and most importantly, hopefully this virus leaves and people stop losing their lives and things like that, because that's ultimately the most important thing.
So that was DeAndre Yedlin's thought about the season playing on. He wants to keep it running on. Of course, I think most fans do as well. And of course, the Premier League met today. This is the final section, final thing that we're going to bring up. Of course, the Premier League met. And what was disappointing about it for me is that they didn't really talk about June the 30th, which I thought was really bizarre. So the Premier League clubs remain united in the desire to finish the season, but the controversial proposal of completing the campaign by June the 30th was not raised in today's meeting, which was Friday. For me, I find that bizarre that you've got a lot of club representatives who are in that video conference. They want to finish the season, but they didn't talk about going past June the 30th. Now, as far as I'm aware, that they're seeing ideas and proposals of how to play games after June the 30th. And of course, they were worried, there were concerns about the player contracts going past that. But how do you discuss, how do you get games? So they discussed about, you can see further down the third paragraph, future games where players, coaches and match officials needed to be tested before going to play behind closed doors. And then it says in the final part here that no representative in attendance raised the idea, which again I've touched on just before, finish the season by June the 30th. And the issues of pay cuts and transfer windows were not debated. Of course, the transfer window side of thing is more of a FIFA thing. So, let's have a look at what he's saying in the live chat before we say goodbye. I cannot see how they are not currently planned to finish on the season, says B. Taylor. Has Matty been in contract talks yet? We need him to stay. Yes, Ryan, we hope it is. You would have thought that there is contract talks despite the coronavirus situation as well. Script says, we cannot just buy a whole team in one summer. We have to remake the team slowly, just like Manchester City. I would agree on that. And Vivid Archer it's because we are on lockdown for another 3 weeks, then it could be extended again, so they can't realistically discuss when the season resumes and to be finished. Okay, so we're in the last minute, so I want to thank you for everybody who's contributed to WhatsApp. I hope you have enjoyed the show. It takes a lot out of us to produce this kind of show because we're not in the studio, it's all done remotely. It takes hours to produce this kind of stuff, so hopefully you do enjoy the content. And we are still got plenty of content coming as well on YouTube as well. We haven't run out of ideas. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. Thank you for your interaction on the live chat, and of course on WhatsApp. We broadcast across YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, LinkedIn, and have I missed anything off? Twitter as well. And of course this will be replayed back on Nova Radio 102.5 FM. So yes, hopefully the next time we do a live stream, we have a takeover announced. #Cans. Have a good night, everyone. Bye bye.
The Black and White Football Show, Sundays 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.